The White House not saying when they or the president knew about the death benefits being withheld, but the Pentagon warning this would happen when he spoke to reporters 4 days before the shutdown. This is what was spoken from that podium.
We would also be required to do some other bad things to our people. Just some examples: we couldn't immediately pay death gratuities to those who die on active duty during the lapse. This is ghoulish, but it's the law, not policy. Remember that. If the death occurred after the lapse took place, then the money would be obligated after the lapse took place, and we would have no authority to pay based on that money until the lapse ended. So in that case, they could be delayed.
Okay, that was September 27. It's October 10 now. Doug Schoen, former advisor to President Clinton, Monica Crowley, radio talk show host, and both their Fox News contributors. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning, Bill.
What do you think about this? I mean, how did this happen?
Look, this is not a surprise when you look at the pattern of behavior from this administration from the beginning. This is the same line. This is the same excuse we got when the IRS scandal broke. Oh, the president had no idea. You found out on TV. Benghazi. Oh, the president had no idea. Fast and Furious. The president had no clue. He never has a clue about anything. Of course, this White House knew. They are on record, and there is evidence right out there to show that this administration deliberately intended to inflict maximum pain on the American people, including our active veterans they've denied benefits to, our World War II veterans closing the memorial, and now our dead veterans killed in action. They've gone from simply spiteful now to outright despicable. They have the resources. The president and the Secretary of Defense both have broad authority to reprogram funds from one appropriation to another. This is inexcusable.
Doug, you worked for Bill Clinton in the
I did.
mid-90s.
I did.
And you heard what Hume said last week,
Yeah.
that Bill Clinton, he fought it was like the dog fighting to his last day to prevent a shutdown. And just remind our viewers here,
Sure.
okay? Because hang on one second.
Please.
Because in the mid-90s, the biggest dispute in America was whether or not you could go to Yosemite or Yellowstone in the month of December. This is so far different now, and the question is, why?
Well, a couple of reasons. First, policy-wise, we'd passed 7 or 8 appropriation bills before the shutdown, so the shutdown itself was more limited. But there's a bigger reason, Bill. The bigger reason was the person of both Bill Clinton and Newt Gingrich, the House Republican Speaker, and Bob Dole, the Senate Minority Leader. Bottom line, there was a commitment among them to do the right thing, to avoid the worst effect of the shutdown, to avoid playing politics with, as Monica suggests,
So why wouldn't this president do the right thing, Doug?
You know, I think there's enough blame to go around, and I think ultimately what this argues for is everyone, the president, the Republicans in the House and Senate, everyone negotiating now quickly a deal to avoid these outrages and other outrages and get the government open.
Let me try to answer your question. I think, you know, Doug's former boss, Bill Clinton, and the other political actors that he was talking about in '95, they were pragmatists. You're dealing with a completely different kettle of fish in Barack Obama. He is a committed leftist ideologue. We have seen this pattern with him before. He is, look, during the sequester, what was the first thing they did? They shut the White House doors. So all these little kids that had done bake sales couldn't get into the White House. This is about inflicting maximum pain in order to use it as political leverage to get the Republicans to cave in.
I don't know if you heard.
But using veterans is the worst of the worst.
I apologize for interrupting you. At the top of our program, Wendell Goler was reporting as to whether or not the White House lawyers knew about this.
Right.
Now, yesterday, we picked up this NBC report that said lawyers at Defense, Justice, and the White House all knew about this. If the rest of the media, and if we here at the Fox News Channel can match this reporting, that White House lawyers were aware of it before the shutdown happened, that's outrageous.
Of course, the whole thing is outrageous. And, Bill, I don't minimize it. I don't minimize what Monica is saying. I just believe that the way you think about something like this is to solve problems immediately, to avoid the outrage of the cancer patients who aren't getting trials, to make sure our government employees who are essential.
You're right about that, and you solve problems by talking with one another.
Right, I agree.
And what's Boehner been saying for 2 weeks? Give us a conversation.
He's
and
right
it's
about,
not even going to happen until this afternoon.
He's right about that, but the defund Obamacare movement bill, you have to acknowledge, was not helpful to this process.
Well, wait a minute. Those are two separate issues because the House has passed spending bill after spending bill to fund the government, with the exception of Obamacare.
But that's a big if, Monica.
Including death benefits and so on. And still, the Democrats in the Senate and this president refused to do it. Bill Clinton even did sign some small spending bills to keep essential parts of the government functioning. This president will not do it. He is vindictive and spiteful.
Monica, would you agree we need
malice.
negotiations today?
Yes,
no
bring
conditions.
the president to the table and not just full
Everybody
of BS.
to the
Let
table.
him actually
to
mean
both
what
of you,
he's talking
thank you.
about.
The House voted 425-0 to make sure this happens.
Right.
It's the second time in 5 days they've had to do it. Doug, thank you.
Thank
Monica,
you.
thanks
Pleasure.
to you as well.
Thanks.
Martha, what's next?